It's a committee study from Bethany. This is, we had this on the first, on our first meeting, and basically I'm just bringing it up here. It covers a lot of the same aspects and information that we're seeking. You know, it talks about, you know, just the table of contents. It talks about environmental, health, and safety issues. It talks about legal issues, talks about financial issues. The viewpoint of the document is from the perspective of public health, safety, and welfare. And really, the impacts concerned to the Ogden Citizens Committee during this round of reviews includes the ice throw, the noise, shadow flicker, setbacks, and the effects on property values. So, writings in here relating to ice throw. The document provides a mathematical formula to calculate potential ice throw distance. It states that due to aerodynamic drag, it would be highly unlikely to achieve the maximum distances. Document recommends a setback of 1.65 times the sum of the hub height and rotor diameter from other turbines, roadways, overhead utility lines, and uninhabited structures to be sufficient to prevent damage from ice throw. Relating to noise, the document states that turbines produce two types of noise, audible and infrasonic. Interesting point of document, on the decibel scale, the smallest audible sound is 0. A sound 10 times louder is 10 dB. A sound 100 times louder is 20 dB. So basically, you can't add the decibels together. It's more of an exponent. So if you go from 10 decibels to 20 decibels, that means that the sound is 10 times larger, 10 times greater.
Right, so if you want to go from 30 to 40, 10 times greater than 30. But when you're properly asleep, if you go to 40, that's 10 times louder than what you can properly get sleep.
Right.
So 45 would be 15 times? Or is that?
Going from 30 to 45?
Yeah. If it's 10 times, or is it 15? Because you said 20 is how much?
Yeah. Going from 30 to 40 would be 10 times, the sound is 10 times greater at 40 than it is at 30.
So would it double again at, so it'd be 20 times greater?
And if you go from 30 to 50 decibel is 100 times greater.
So it's 100 times.
30.
Yeah, so 10 to 45 doesn't work to 15.
I don't think it works to 15.
No.
So anyhow, the document provides a table of noise standards and regulations for wind turbines in various countries, with environments categorized as commercial, mixed residential, and rural. The rural dB A-weighted limits are as follows. Denmark is 45. Germany during the day is 50, but Germany at night is 35. Netherlands during the day is 40. The Netherlands at night is 30. Those are based on the dBA weighting. Infrasound is below the limit of human perception but still exists. Some effects of infrasound may include fatigue, hypertension, and abdominal symptoms. G.P. Vandenberg performed a study of wind turbine park on the Dutch-German border. The study found that residents living 500 meters or 1,500 feet or more from the park had reacted strongly to the noise, and residents up to 1,900 meters or approximately 5,700 feet, they expressed annoyance, particularly at night. Also, Vandenberg noted that several turbines were in the area. There can be amplification effect on the rhythmic thumping caused when turbine blades pass the towers on which they're mounted. Noise mitigation is typically accomplished with setbacks and acoustic dampeners. Acoustic dampeners must be some type of a mechanical device within the turbine that would allow it to generate at a lower noise level.
Right, that's there.
Whether it's through the turning of the blades, slowing down the speed of the blades, or a combination. Okay, shadow and flicker effects. talked about two different types. You have your strobe effect, which is the sunlight coming through the blades and causing a strobing effect, for the blade glint, which is more of a reflection. The distance between the turbine and the receptor affects the intensity of the shadows cast by the blades. Document indicated that shadow flicker may result in headaches, migraines, nausea, vertigo, and disorientation. This may be due to 3 organs of position perception, which is the inner ear, the eyes, and stretch receptors in muscles and joints. That they're getting stimulation that don't agree with each other, so the body gets confused. Shadow flicker primarily affects areas to the east, west, and immediate north of the turbine site. The impact areas and durations can be determined through scientific modeling. The document indicates the basic way to mitigate shadow flicker impact is through setback regulation. But it also states that there exist special controllers that can be integrated with turbines that will automatically shut off the turbine during the peak times of flicker. I think we heard that in one of our township board meetings, that there was some type of a controller device that could shut the turbine down.
Yeah, that's a computer sensor. It runs off a computer, and they put a sensor on the house or placed on the property someplace, so it shuts down. And like I had said in the meeting before, that they're saying it's only 20 minutes and it's only 30 hours a year. And the expense of that computer modeling and the computer sensor equipment, why would it would be only 30 hours a year, they'd have to shut them down, you know, at their max. So why wouldn't they go and put that in? It can't cost that much money. I mean, if they're $3 million turbines, even if it's $30,000 per turbine, that's a drop in the bucket to go and make people happy.
Yeah.
I mean, and I can't imagine the computer and the sensor is gonna cost $30,000 per turbine. I'll have to look into that.
The document also provides some examples of setbacks at for different locations. In a place called Pavilion, New York, the setback is 1,000 feet. Perry and Cohocton is 1,500 feet. US NWCC is half a mile, or 2,640 feet. In France, it says here the setback is 1.5 kilometers, which is 4,900 feet. And an area here called German Retaxo Rise is 1¼ mile. Document recommends that property lines be the point of reference for setbacks. And it provided some trends. It says current trends are towards using larger turbines. The trend in setbacks is upward at a scale out, distancing the size increase in turbines themselves. German setbacks have increased upwards to averages of 1,980 feet from just a few hundred meters when it started. The only known mitigation for most impacts is an adequate setback. Then it talks about effect on property values. Document indicates that generally properties with turbines have increased in value due to the fact that they're now producing a greater amount of income for a contractual period of time. So that would be the agricultural land that turbines are placed on. Document acknowledged that because of relatively little hard data on the subject of property value impacts, and this document was from, I believe it's 2007, so it's a couple of years ago. Document acknowledged that because of relatively little hard data on the subject of property value impacts caused by wind turbines, they could not make a definitive statement. However, the document does recommend for wind project developers to provide property value assurances to assure a fair market value for any home within the view shed of a turbine, and that these agreements are written such that the responsibility passes to each subsequent owner of the wind facility. So that was the Bethany Wind Turbine Committee study. The next document is one on wind turbine sound measurements. This document is, okay, the document states that Wind industry strategy is to present sound measurements to the public in A-weighted or DBA measurements. They provide comparisons to everyday activities such as a flowing stream, leaves rustling in a gentle breeze, reading room of a library, or an unoccupied, quiet, air-conditioned office. Document states that sound measurement method ignores the large infrasound component of wind turbine noise. Document states that A weighting curve corrects measurements according to the sensitivity of human hearing, de-emphasizing low-frequency components for which the ear is insensitive, as if they don't exist. It may be valid to use this measurement if hearing the sound is the prime concern. Document states that one of the main influences of wind turbine noise may be caused by the infrasound component of the noise. A weighted spectrum does not take into account that other structures in the ear are more sensitive to infrasound and are affected to a greater degree than hearing. Document states that only using A-weighted wind turbine noise is equal to taking sunlight and considering only the visible portion of the spectrum, then concluding that sunlight is completely safe and there will be no adverse effects if you spend all day lying in the sun. This logic is not valid for sunlight, and the document says it's not valid for just using the A-weighted measurements either. Document states that it is well established that infrasound does have effects on people. It bothers them intensely, so to ignore this component of the noise is to ignore a major problem that the noise causes to people by disturbing sleep and subsequent damage to their health. Document concludes as follows. These comparisons show that the measurements of wind turbine noise depends highly on exactly how the different frequency components are considered in or excluded from the measurement. The A weighting cuts out most low frequency sound and gives the lowest reading. C weighted allows more low frequency sound and gives a measure intermediate between the A weighting and the G weighting. The G weighting gives a measure of the infrasound components. Underweighted measures give the highest peak, or unweighted measures give the highest peak readings. Then in consideration or in conjunction with that, I've also married this up with another document. This document was a pre-filed testimony of Peter Goldberg on behalf of the Universal Health Service, and I'll just go real quickly and highlight.
He's from the tech environment, that is the...
From tech environment. Yeah, this was
the consultant, the acoustic consultant for the developer.
Yeah. This document was a pre-filed testimony to the state of Vermont Public Service Board. It has a docket number, and the document is dated July 27. The document relates to a petition of a wind developer for a certificate of public good for constructing a 52 megawatt wind electric generation facility in the towns of Sheffield and Sutton, Vermont.
What year was that?
2006.
Okay.
Mr. Goldberg provides testimony on noise-related effects of the project. His testimony describes the shortcomings of the wind developer sound expert. His testimony acknowledges that low-frequency modulated sound from wind farms at night are the most annoying audible sounds these installations produce. The testimony also identifies the three components of turbine noise, which is the broadband aerodynamic sound, the mechanical noise, and then the beating noise that is amplitude modulated. The sound pressure rises and falls with time at a rate that matches the blade passage frequency. His testimony indicated that the project noise report only addressed broadband aerodynamic sound, which is the least likely to annoy people. The second and third kinds of noise, which is the audible and impulse noise, were not analyzed. These two types of noise also are impacts most likely to adversely affect public health and aesthetics. And I guess my interpretation is that this wind developer's sound expert was only using the A-weighted measures, which de-emphasizes the low frequency impacts. Mr. Goldberg's testimony acknowledges the studies of G.P. Vandenberg that addresses the effects of wind profile at night on wind turbine noise. And then, in summary, the there's a section in here that really tells a story. It says, given the similarities between the Reed Wind Park and UPC wind project, both in terms of wind turbine generator size and numbers of turbines, is likely that highly annoying impulse noise, described as rhythmic thump, described as distant pile driving, will be audible in the evening, and this is Peter Goldberg's testimony, these are his words, that the impulse noise will be audible in the evening at the sensitive receptors within 2 kilometers of the turbines. That's 1¼ miles. And the impulse noise would substantially impact public health and aesthetics in a very quiet rural area where the UPC wind park is proposed.
So it's 1.4 miles, as he's saying in here, he's saying it's okay at 1320.
That was the same man that came to write it?
Yes. So anyhow,
He
that's,
stated something not like that at all. Okay, I just wanted to clear. Okay.
So-
1.25 miles.
1.24 miles, and yeah, that's not consistent with what I'm hearing, what they're proposing for our area, which is 1,300 feet.
Well, and these turbines are bigger than that probably. I mean, that was back in then, they didn't even make this size of turbine then.
Yeah.
And the higher up you go, the farther the noise is gonna travel because it's higher up before it hits the ground.
The last document I have, just real quickly, addresses what I would consider to be like a minimum setback distance. And what this document is, this is the mechanical operating and maintenance manual for the Vestas wind system. This is the V90, which is the model similar, I think, to the V100 that's proposed here.
I think B9 is about more up in the thumb.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the safety regulation for operators and technicians, so this is